Hey guys, what's going on? Me, Jay, here to talk about this whole Kanye West situation that is going on right now. Kanye West and even more hot water as Adidas decides to cancel their deal with Kanye West. This coming on the heels of other fashion companies canceling their deals with Kanye. Kanye seems like he is off the rails. He's completely gone. Couple of months ago or weeks ago, he made anti-Semitic remarks on Drink Champs, saying that he would go DEFCON 3 or DEFCON 3. It was DEF, not DEATH. Um, Basically saying that he would kill um, Jewish people. He went on Drink Champs to explain his stance on the comments that he made in regards to George Floyd's death. He had he had some kind of partnership with Candace Owens. He made appearance at this fashion show, this fashion gala, with a White Lives Matter T-shirt. Of course, that's going to anger um, the BLM audience, the BLM crowd, and then he decides to rather than actually go on there and explain himself, he digs himself into an even deeper hole when he starts to, threaten a bunch of Jewish people and launch into anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. It seems like Kanye West is the type of individual who he should never really open his mouth and he should never speak words because he always gets himself into hot water. Every time he tries to explain himself out of a situation, he digs his hole even deeper. Um, since he's come out since 2004, he always seems to get his himself in trouble with one group or another by being violently outspoken and being and displaying fits of erratic behavior. Remember when he first came out, he did this interview with Sway back in the day, and he said something that had a lot of hip hop people angered. You know, speaking out against the homophobia in hip hop. Then from there, he went on to um, do the thing with Mike Myers that we talked about in the 2000s review video, where he said George Bush doesn't care about black people, and that got him into hot water with conservatives. Then one time he said slavery was a choice. Then another time he went around with a Confederate flag um, picture posted on his jacket. Then another time, who can forget in 2009 when he said Beyonce had one of the greatest albums of all time in the middle of Taylor Swift's induction speech. Then President Barack Obama commented on him that he was an ass, and he went on against a tirade against Barack Obama. Then he became a Trump supporter. Then he became a conservative Christian. Then he attacked Amber Rose after their breakup, and then he was with Kim Kardashian. He had a couple of kids with her. Then he broke up with her, and she started going out with Pete Davidson. Then he started publicly attacking and stalking Pete Davidson. Is there ever an end to the things that Kanye West does to attract himself attention? I mean, he's a talented musician, college dropout, and late registration. His first two albums, and Twisted Dark Fantasy, his album in 2010, probably one of the greatest three of the greatest rap albums ever to be released. He worked, of course, extensively with Jay-Z on the Blueprint album. Um, he is a great producer. He changed the game as far as hip hop beat making. Other than Dr. Dre, probably the best hip hop producer in the history of hip hop. But when it comes to this extracurricular activity and this craziness, it's like it overshadows his genius. And I believe that when Kanye West eventually passes away, this extracurricular activity will overshadow his musical legacy. And his musical legacy will be shrouded in controversy because of this. He'll be as much remembered for this kind of craziness as he is for his musical talents and musical contributions. I mean, Lisa, hey, how's it going? Lisa says, of course, it will overshadow it. It's similar, very similar in a sense to a person that we talk a lot about on this channel, Michael Jackson. Maybe Michael Jackson, not in the sense of his comments and the things that he said, but more so the things that he was accused of and the things that he did overshadowed or went hand in hand with his musical legacy. But for Kanye West, now I think this is the hole that he cannot dig himself out of. This is the one that he went too far, because this is the one that um is the death nail in his coffin. Is this these I was just gonna get to that. Lisa says he apologized for the Jewish remarks, but he has not apologized for his remarks against the black community. And that's absolutely right. The Jewish one was a step too far because um not that I agree with his rant against the Jewish community, but as Russell Simmons said in his video that he did, weirdly, a weird video, a very weird video, where he's sitting in an Indian position. Looks like he's praying. Looks like he's like a Buddha or some kind of Hindu fakir praying, and he's talking. But what he's basically saying is that a lot of these companies are controlled by and ran by Jewish people, both in the fashion industry as well as the music industry. And when he came out and said these kind of comments, the Jewish community was going to blackball him. But of course, he's done so much, like I said, against the black community over the years. Especially, I feel like the black community should have been done with him when he said slavery was a choice. But yet they gave him chance after chance. They forgave him and forgave him. Confederate flag stuff, stuff against Barack Obama, stuff aligning himself with Donald Trump, becoming a conservative Christian, aligning himself with the extreme right wing. And they forgave him and forgave him, took him back countless of times because he's a great music producer. I mean, come on. Does being a great music artist give you the right to say what you have to say? Your art can be great, but your personality sucks, my man. You know what I mean? Your personality is terrible. The George Floyd thing, but that's a laundry list of stupidity. That should have been that. But even that, I can bet that if this wasn't coupled with the Jewish remarks, nobody would care. People just be like, "Oh, Kanye, he's just crazy." You know what I mean? And people would forgive him and buy his next album or wear $1,000 shoes, $1,000 Yeezys are some of the ugliest fucking sneakers that I've ever seen. And yet people pay hundreds of dollars for these ugly ass shoes. I mean, these sneakers are ugly as fuck. you know, his clothes aren't even that good. I mean, I remember when people used to give Michael Jordan a lot of shit and a lot of flack for not supporting the community. and people going out of their way to buy his sneakers that were hundreds of dollars. Yeezys were 10 times worse as far as their pricing than Jordans, and yet people forgave Kanye just because he's a fucking rapper. Yeah, I'm gonna bring that up too. That's another thing. Lisa says, and then he even said, there's some to the fact that no one could touch him because his mental illness. So he's using his mental illness as a reason to say what he's saying. Of course, because they gave him that out. They gave him that out years ago. They said, "Oh, don't pay attention to him. He's just saying, this stuff because he's just crazy, right?" But that was something that was an out that the public gave him, and um, he's now using it to his advantage because he's like, okay, this is a get out of jail free card. I can say anything and they can't hold me to it because I'm quote unquote mentally ill, right? It's sort of like, say you have a special needs adult that you work with, and this special needs adult, say he or she is mentally disabled, right? And they say out of control, perverted stuff, right? And then the person just says, "Oh, well, what are you gonna do? He don't know better." You know what I mean? And he's allowed to touch, female coworkers and fondle them and hug them in strange and weird ways. And people give him a pass on it because, oh, he don't know any better. He's just him, you know what I mean? But that's the thing. He does know better. I mean, I think Kanye has a mental illness. I think he does indeed have bipolar. But for him to use his mental health diagnosis as a sympathy card, I believe that's ran out. That doesn't work anymore. You know what I mean? You know exactly what you're doing. Perfect example of what I'm talking about. In high school, we had a girl that she had a physical disability, but she also had somewhat of a mental disability as well. And she would wander the halls, throughout class, basically cut class. And other teachers, they would let her slide with that because they'd be like, "Oh, Tiffany, she doesn't know any better, right? She's not maliciously trying to cut class like the rest of us because it's the class is freaking boring. She's just doing it because she's lost, right?" But then eventually teachers were like, "You know what?" They caught on to her. And after that, a couple of teachers were like, "No, Tiffany, you cannot. You can go to the bathroom, but you have to come back. And in fact, you don't need to go to the bathroom because you wear special things where you don't have to go to the bathroom like a regular person. You're just using that as an excuse to not be in class. And if anybody else tried, and you have scheduled times that you have to go to the bathroom, and if anybody else tried that, it would just be called cutting class. You know what I mean? You're just using that as a crutch, so you can't be penalized for something somebody else would do that's wrong." You know what I mean? And I think that's what Kanye's doing. He's using his mental illness to do things that other people can't get away with, saying do things that other people wouldn't be able to get away with saying and doing, and using the mental illness as a cop out, which is totally fucked up. You know what I mean? So Lisa's absolutely right that that is messed up because there are people in the world that are actually mentally ill. There are people in the world that have the same condition Kanye West has, but they have it even worse, right? they're actually mentally ill. They can actually Kanye West is just a rich asshole, really. You know what I mean? And some of it is his mental illness, but others of it is just him being an asshole and him being intentionally provocative. Him saying stuff just to get a rise in reaction out of people. Now, the fact that Adidas canceled his deal, that's crazy because Adidas was founded in the 1920s by a man named Adolf Dassler in Germany. And Adidas was actually used as clothing during World War II after 1933 for Hitler Youth. And Adolf Dassler and his brother, who founded the Puma company, uh, actually, Puma split from Adidas in 1947. Um, um, and created their own brand. But both of them were used. Well, Adidas was, because after 45, the war was over and Germany was already out of it. But Adidas, both of those guys were members of the Hitler Youth. Adolf Dassler and his brother were both members of the Hitler Youth. So, right, exactly, Lisa. But one of the craziest things was Adidas was, as you know from hip hop history, some people may know, Adidas was one of the first brands to work with a hip hop group in Run DMC, which is one of the oddities. But my whole point of that's one of the craziest things in history. My whole point in saying that is that Adidas should not be coming out of Kanye West as anti-Semitic when they themselves are rooted in anti-Semitic history with Adolf Dassler. Of course, maybe now, of course, the guy died, so now the people that run Adidas are not anti-Semitic. But the whole point of them trying to attack him for being anti-Semitic is wild. I'm not saying that Kanye West ain't anti-Semitic because obviously he is. But one thing, and one thing too about Kanye, has anybody noticed that Kanye talks differently? Like, if you go back to his, not the stuff he says, I'm talking about the way he says it, right? If you go back to his earlier interviews, when he was when he didn't have these crazy ass political views, he had a different way of speaking. He had a different diction in the way that he speaks. I sometimes think that a lot of this is a put on just to say crazy and wild shit just to get attention. I think he's one of those people that if his name ain't out there and people ain't talking about him, he feels left out of the conversation. Because in reality, his time in music has passed him by. Now, people give him credit, right? For I saw this interview with Charleston White. They give him credit for advocating for the freedom of Larry Hoover, founder of the Black Gangster Disciples in the 1970s, advocating for who later became a um, a political figure for black rights. But how are you going to advocate for Larry Hoover's freedom, a Chicago legend, a legend in the Chicago game, in the city of Chicago? How are you going to advocate for Larry Hoover's freedom and push for his freedom as a political prisoner while at the same time saying the shit that you say with Candace Owens, showing up with a White Lives Matter T-shirt and everything? You know what I'm saying? You can't speak out of two sides of your mouth. So either you're advocating for the freedom of Larry Hoover, which he was, or you're saying that white lives matter and you freaking a hardcore conservative. I mean, make up your mind, Kanye. You're gonna take the one political stance or another. I just think a lot of what he says is jumbled mess and jumbled garbage. And yeah, Lisa says Kanye's better stop but he always has that mental illness out, Lisa, because um, I don't think people are falling for it as much anymore. But at the same time, uh, some people still fall for it. It's still a card he can still use. I think it's running out of cachet. It's running out of of ability to be used, but he can still use it in a sense. So as long as he can say I'm mentally ill, people are gonna be like, oh well, I can't say anything about him because he's mentally ill. You know what I mean? Because aren't gonna be people aren't gonna be as likely to criticize somebody that they think is on medicine. You know what I mean? Right. And the ADA too. But that's still not going to bode well in custody courts because they're going to say, okay, he's mentally unfit with that, then he's mentally unfit to freaking take care of his own children or see his own children because he could pollute the kids with ideas, that are toxic ideas. So you don't want to push it. You don't want to push it too far because then they'll say, oh well, he can't be trusted with children. He can't be trusted with kids anymore. So, you know, he's really mentally ill that far. He's really that far and he's not taking his medicine to control it. Then we're going to make it so that he can't see his children. He's unsuitable as a father. And then now with your lies and using it as a crutch, now you've effed yourself. Because it was just like the example of the girl in my school. Okay, now she wasn't allowed to go to the bathroom at all without an attendant because she abused that privilege and she used her disability as a crutch. Now, everywhere she goes in the school, she has to have somebody with her because she cannot be trusted anymore. And I think the courts are going to look at Kanye like that. Okay, you're really mentally ill like that. Your condition is so far gone, then you can't see your children anymore. You're not deemed as healthy to see your kids anymore. And then her, just like with her, his plan of using his illness as a crutch is going to backfire because people's patience only only lasts but so much. Right? He's not on medicine, and his actions prove that. Unless it could be all publicity stunt, he is on his medicine, and he's just saying shit. But in that case, he's wrong too. So in a situation like this, you can win because either you're pretending and you're not as bad as you say you are, or you are as bad as you say you are and you can't be trusted around kids. I I heard of I heard somebody say if Kanye West were alive today, his mother would slap his the phone out of his hand, and that's really what he needs. He needs somebody to step in as his guardian, like Britney Spears under the. Yeah, his school got shut down, Lisa, not because of his comments, but because of his comments. But at the same time, it wasn't so much his comments; it was more so that the school was unaccredited. The school was like, um, the school was like Trump University. It was some bullshit. They weren't even teaching practical skills. This guy Kanye was one of those people. He actually said in an interview, eating reading was like eating Brussels sprouts. Okay, you don't like to read, so how you have a school? You know what I'm saying? It's like an anorexic owning a restaurant. This person don't like to, you know what I mean? He don't like to read. He's allergic to books. He claims it's like eating Brussels sprouts, which is an indication that it's like a chore. But at the same time, uh, he, uh, he has a school. How do you have a school and you don't like learning? You know what I mean? Like, seems a little bit dumb. I mean, nobody ever became a genius out of this school, and plus, it was an you had to sign an agreement, a non-disclosure agreement to even go there. So the school was total BS and another hustle move, in a sense. You know. Anyway, guys, that's my opinion about the whole Kanye shit. He's just a fake, phony, and what he really needs, in my opinion, is somebody to take control of his finances. You know what I mean? And take control of his Twitter post. Somebody say, okay, Kanye, you claim that you're too mentally ill to take care of yourself and you have mental illness. Well, okay, you have to be monitored now in what you post. Just in the same way that Britney Spears was monitored under her conservatorship when she was going crazy in the mid 2000s. Well, it's the same thing. That's what I think. Somebody take control of them. Say, Kanye, no, put that phone down. You're not allowed to tweet anymore. You're not allowed to. Well, they banned him off Twitter, but you're not allowed to say these things anymore. As long as you continue to give him a platform, he's going to continue to say these stupid things. He's been doing this since the early 2000s. But it is highly hypocritical that they got him at him for the Jewish thing, but they didn't get at him for these other black comments. It just goes to show you where people's minds are, and the Jewish thing is a step too far, and we all know that because if anybody even criticizes anything about the Jewish people, even criticize Israel, for example, they'll be banned from YouTube. The Jewish community and the LGBTQ community are two communities that you don't want to touch. You'll be persona non grata when it comes to cancel culture. So cancel culture really does exist. It's not a figment of people's imaginations, and Kanye is seeing the ill effects of it right now. Well, I think police said the school's going to get shut down completely. And it should, because it's not a real school. Anyway, guys, that's what I think. Adidas is a Nazi heritage company anyway, so them coming out against Kanye is hypocritical, but at the same time, Kanye is a fucking asshole. Peace. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for Lisa contributing. Love you.